welcome to my channel. My name is Jab and I make videos about budget travel, and today I'm going to be talking about Camp America. If you clicked on this video, I guess that you're kind of curious about Camp America, or like you're thinking about doing it but you just kind of want like a bit more info about it. Basically, I did Camp America this summer. I've only been back from camp maybe like 2.5 weeks. I've been back from camp now, so it's still really fresh in my head. It's still really recent, so I'm basically going to be talking about my experience on Camp America summer 2022 and how I got into it, like what it is, and my whole experience on camp. You might be thinking like, what even is Camp America? So you probably heard it like around. I kind of heard about it, but I didn't really know what it was. So basically, sorry if I keep looking here, I've got like a whole bunch of notes on my laptop here. So basically, Camp America is a cultural exchange program where you spend the summer living and working in the USA at a kids' summer camp, and you get paid for it. And then afterwards, on your visa, you get a whole month to travel the States if you want to. And yeah, so you work at a kids' camp and you teach anything from like water sports to like regular sports to arts, crafts, music, literally whatever. And there's loads of different types of camps. So there's like special needs camps, private camps, single sex camps, Girl Scout camps, underprivileged community camps. And yeah, there's basically a whole bunch of different camps to choose from. I think there's about 150 that Camp America partner with. And yeah, I'm just going to talk about my experience. So I worked at a private mixed camp in northern Michigan, and it had about 300 kids each session. I want to say there were 2 sessions. I used to binge watch these types of videos just before I was going to camp. So yeah, hopefully this is going to be helpful to one of you guys. Why did I do Camp America? So basically, I've just graduated from university and I know that I didn't want to go straight into work. Let's call it an extended gap year, yeah, just to figure out what I wanted to do and travel. Like, I knew I wanted to go traveling on my own because none of my friends like really wanted to, but I was a bit scared just to book like a ticket on my own. So I just wanted to like find something that was like a nice middle ground. And also COVID had just happened. I was really bored of being stuck in the UK. So I know I wanted to go abroad somewhere and do something fun for the summer, but I just didn't know what. And then I started Googling, and then one night I stumbled across Camp America. I started looking into it and I was like, this looks really cool. Let me apply for this. So the next section is how I got hired. So basically I applied on the Camp America website, and you basically have to just fill out like a basic job type application form, just like about yourself and basic information like that. And then they start asking you about camp related skills. There's like a whole different bunch of skills you can select, and then you can just say like your skill level on each skill. For example, there's football. You could say that you played football at school, or like painting, you can just write that like you do painting in your spare time, etc., that you're a lifeguard, whatever, like all your qualifications, you just have to list them. And then afterwards you have to book yourself in for an interview after you've filled out all the information about yourself. However, I didn't go down that route. I saw that they were doing a recruitment fair in London that weekend. And basically what a recruitment fair is that it fast tracks your application, so you don't need to go through like the interviews. You basically fast track your application if you go to a recruitment fair. The recruitment fair was in central London, and it had about 40 different camp representatives at the recruitment fair. So I turned up to the recruitment fair, had to wait in a really long queue to get in. We had a presentation from Camp America just about camp and just some general interview tips. And then we went into the room, and it was a really massive room, and it had stalls with about 40 different camp representatives at each stall. So basically all the different stalls had posters of what they were looking for at each camp. So for example, they were looking specifically for lifeguards, or someone that could had a ballet qualification, or somebody that could teach like level 2 guitar or whatever. So I was just walking around and just having a look at these different camps, and basically if you like the look of one and your skills match, you have a chat with someone just about your skills, and then if they think you're compatible with that camp, they invite you for an interview, and then if they like you, you pass the interview, they'll hire you there on the spot. I was walking around for a bit, and then I stumbled across one camp and I had a chat with the lady. She seemed really nice. I had an interview and I had a job offer, and I just had a feeling that like I wasn't really feeling this camp. I don't know why, it just didn't seem right, even though the lady was super nice and it seemed like a really cool camp to work at. I don't know, I just wasn't feeling it, so I declined that offer and I went for like another walk around the recruitment hall just to see what my skills matched as. I stumbled across my camp and I saw that they were looking for people that could horse ride, and I did a little bit of horse riding when I was younger. I'm not like an expert by any means, and I stood in the line for an interview and I instantly fell in love with the whole vibe of the camp. I really liked the two representatives that were interviewing me, and what they were looking for was someone that could horse ride and that matched my skills. And also the camp I work at has a camp newspaper, and I did a journalism degree, so that matched my skill set as well. And in general I just really like the vibe of the camp, and they offered me a job and I took it straight away. I was so happy. If you go to a recruitment fair, is that you don't need experience. Like, I'm not an outstanding horse rider. Like, I did it when I was like 12, 13, I'm 21 now. All you need is just enthusiasm and a positive attitude and like a willingness to learn. And if you come across that way, they will pick it up and then you're more likely to get a job offer. And also another thing is, if you decide to go to a recruitment fair, look up the camps before in advance and make like a short list of camps that you want to go and interview, but don't set your mind on one specific camp that you want to work at, because it might not be the camp for you. Like the first camp that I went and got interviewed at, like that one was the one that I really wanted to work at, but then when I started talking to them, I was thinking to myself, I'm not really liking the vibe of this. I don't feel like this camp is for me. So don't set your mind on one specific camp, and definitely keep an open mind when going through the interview process. So the next section is camp prep. So you pay Camp America about, I want to say £450 for their package, and what the package covers is your J1 visa, which allows you to work in America for 3 months, your flight, get a flight from London or Edinburgh to wherever you are in America, and you get your return flight as well, and your return flight is from New York to London or Edinburgh. And if you want it from a different place, you do have to pay extra. And it also covers your DBS check, your medical forms, and your insurance. And I think that's a pretty good price for everything that you get, because plane tickets alone, that would cost up to £550 one way, and you're getting a return. And they book you in like a nice airline. Like, it's not like the cheap ones. They book you in like the bougie airlines. Yeah, the company always keeps you updated. There's always like information sessions that they invite you to, or they're always sending out emails of like online like seminars you can go to for like information and stuff. So they really keep you well informed. So I would really recommend, like, there's a whole load of forms you have to complete before you go to camp. So it's basically a conditional job offer if you're successful for all the other stuff. So you have to get a DBS check, you have to go to the doctors and get a whole medical form done. And just to let you know, this can cost money to go to the doctors and ask them to fill out a form about you. It cost me about £25 for them to fill out a medical form, and it's basically just like to check that like you're healthy and like you're like mentally well and stuff. You also need references, like 2 references in detail. And then probably the longest thing to sort out is the J1 visa. There's so many forms that you need to do before you go to the American Embassy in central London and get your visa. One thing I would recommend is joining the Camp America Facebook group. I met these 2 really lovely girls when I went to get my visa sorted in the embassy. Definitely for any help or advice or meeting up to like go to the embassy or anything like that, definitely join the Facebook group. Probably my number 1 piece of advice was to save up quite a bit of money before you go to camp. Like if you want to travel afterwards, you're going to need money for that. Or then on days off you will spend quite a lot of money. So I would say don't go on Camp America without having some savings. I used to work in like retail and I did youth work as well, so I would just work, like pick up whatever hours I could just to save up money, so I knew I wouldn't be like stressing out when I was in America. Don't go overboard with buying stuff for camp. Take old clothes because they will get ruined. I definitely went way overboard when buying stuff for camp. Like I didn't need the amount of new stuff that I bought. Because another thing is, you're going to leave a lot of stuff behind, like unintentionally. I'm going to make another video on like a specific packing list and things that I would recommend taking and things that I'd recommend like leaving behind. but definitely pack light. That is my number one piece of advice. I wish I took that advice, because I took so much stuff that I don't need. The next section is getting there and my first week at camp. So my camp, after I did like all the Camp America applications, had my visa sorted, medical forms, DBS and everything else, my camp was sending me a whole bunch of training to complete in the month leading up to camp. And we had a group chat with everybody in camp, and they were just sending us updates, things to bring, reminders that we needed to complete training. And then we also made a separate group chat of everybody from the UK that would be going to camp. There was about maybe 15 people from the UK at my camp, and that was out of, I think there was maybe 90 members of staff, 40 to 50 were internationals, and they were mainly from Puerto Rico, Mexico and the UK, but then there was a lot from countries like Germany, South Africa, why can't I think, Germany, South Africa, Spain, like all over the world. So you're gonna meet people from literally like all four corners of the world. So in the UK group chat everyone arranged to meet each other at the airport. I was so nervous, but everyone was so lovely, honestly. I think everyone was just as nervous as I was. We got on a flight from London Heathrow to Detroit, landed there, and we were the last international flight to arrive. There was a coach that was going to be waiting at Detroit airport until all the international flights and the domestic ones. Everybody got onto the coach and then we started driving to camp. So we went from Detroit airport to camp. As I was saying, the camp I was at was in northern Michigan. It was maybe about a 5-hour coach journey, and then there was a stop in the middle. We basically, at camp, we had 10 days without the kids. We didn't just jump into straight having the kids. So it was like an induction week. So 10 days of training, getting to know everyone, learning how to be a counsellor, learning how to teach your activity, lectures. And it was really helpful, to be honest, because they really, like, we did lots of like role play of like what to do when like a kid's being difficult, getting to know each other, obviously, because like I'd be living here for 2 months. To talk to everyone on induction week, like, I know it's so daunting coming to like a random country. You don't know anyone, you don't know anything, you don't know what you're doing, but everyone, you have to remember, everyone is in the same setting as you. Like, you're not the only one going through this. Like, no one else knows each other as well. So people are willing to make friends, people are willing to talk. Like, sometimes you just have to be the one to initiate the conversation, and they'll be so grateful that you did. Ask questions, even if you think they're stupid questions, just ask anything. No matter how much they will lecture you and teach you during the induction week, nothing can prepare when the kids come. Like, when the kids come, that is when you learn the most. You learn on the job. Another thing is culture shock. Like, when I first got to America, I had such a massive culture shock because of, like, number one, just all the different words that are obviously different between British English and American English. That took me a while to get like my head wrapped around the American lingo. It will take you a while to settle in, but I promise you, everybody wants to make friends, and yeah, everyone is super nice. So take each day as it comes and definitely give it your 100%, because if you're not engaging, talking to people, willing to make friends, then it's not going to come to you. So definitely just go with a positive attitude, and then that will be reciprocated. Next, I'm going to talk about my camp setup. So basically what my camp was like. So as I said, my camp was absolutely in the middle of nowhere in northern Michigan. It was literally in the middle of the woods on a lake, and yeah, the phone service was non-existent. The Wi-Fi was awful. I actually bought a SIM card before coming to America, but that was probably my biggest regret, because number one, it was really expensive, and I prepaid a 3-month contract, and it was so ridiculously expensive. But I barely used my phone because there was no service in the woods. I would definitely check what the service situation is like before buying a SIM card, but also you could buy SIM cards quite readily in Walmart and stuff, so I wouldn't buy one before personally. So at the camp I worked at, there were kids from about 7 to 15 years old, and there were 4 units, units 1, 2, 3 and 4. So unit 1 was 7 to 9 year olds, unit 2 was 10 to 12 year olds, unit 3 was maybe like late 12s to like 12 to 13, maybe some young 14 year olds, And then Unit 4 was those that were 14, 15 and some 16-year-olds. And we had 2 sessions. So we had first session, which was 4 weeks, and second session, which was 3 weeks long. And campers could either stay the full session. They mainly stayed either first session or second session, but then there was some that stayed the full 7 weeks, or some that did 5 weeks, so they would do the last 2 weeks of first session and then the whole of second session. So first session I was a counsellor for Unit 3, so they were all 12 to 13, and then second session I was a counsellor to Unit 2, and they were all 10 years old. So there's pros and cons to different age groups. So for my first age group, when they were all 12 to 13 years old, they were a lot easier to manage. Like, they didn't need my help all the time. They were a lot more independent, and they just got on with stuff. And I didn't feel like I had to do as much work. But then with that age group comes a lot of like girl drama, boy drama. You know how it was when you're like that age. But then with the second session, they were all 10 years old. They were obviously a lot more needy, because they were less independent, and they would like cry because they were homesick and stuff like that. But then, although it was hard work, they were really, really sweet kids. So at my camp, there was a girls' side and a boys' side. So the girls' side was where the girl cabins were, the boys' side was where the boy cabins were. So the boys couldn't go in girls' side, but the girls could go at boys' side, because boys' side is near the waterfront, so you have to walk past the waterfront to get to different activities. So during first session, when I had the 12 to 13-year-olds, I had 15 kids in my cabin. And during second session, when I had the 10-year-olds, I had 10 kids in my cabin. And each session I had 2 other co-counsellors as well. So I'm going to insert some pictures and videos of what a cabin looked like. So it was like a little hut in the woods. So you go in, loads of different bunk beds. Definitely get a bottom bunk in a corner away from the bathroom and door. There was like a table in the middle, and then you'd get like your shelves to put your stuff in. And then there was a bathroom, and the bathroom had 2 sinks, 2 showers and 2 toilets. Basically, I had my cabin and I was the kids' counsellor, so I was like who they went to if they had any issues. So we slept in the same cabin with them, we ate all meals with them, we all went to bed together. So basically did every single thing together apart from activity periods where they would go into their different classes. And then during the kids' activity periods, I would obviously teach my classes. So they would do their activities and I would teach my class, and then we'd all go back and meet for like lunch and stuff. So at the camp that I was at, I mainly taught horse riding, but I also taught animal care and tie-dye. So my camp had lots of different activities. So they had like all the sports, like football, volleyball, tennis, whatever. They had water sports, so they had like tubing, kayaking, water skiing. What else did they have? They had like drama, all different art stuff, animal stuff, farm stuff. Like they had a ton of different activities, so you could teach literally everything. And I just want to touch on food. So we had 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch and dinner. And the food was really, really nice actually. So basically there would be like a buffet. So you queue up to go to the mess hall with your cabin. There would be like a massive buffet, like 3 different lines. And then you just basically grab what you want. And there'll be like a different thing every single day. So for breakfast it would normally be like a buffet of like fruit, like fresh fruit, yogurt, granola. And then there would be like eggs, sausages, or like sometimes we'd have cinnamon toast, waffles, pancakes. And then for lunch, it could be anything. And then there was also the staff snack cupboard. So basically there was a fridge and a cupboard, and they would just be full to the brim of different snacks, and we could just go and grab something if we were hungry. So now I'm just going to go through a typical day at camp. So the wake up bell went at 8 AM, and from where my cabin was, I could never hear the wake up bell because the wake up bell was on boys' side. But the wake up bell was at 8 AM, and then breakfast would be at 8:30. But I would just set my alarm on my phone. That's another thing I want to add. We were allowed to have phones, but we weren't allowed to have them in front of the kids. Like the kids weren't allowed any screens, any phones, like they weren't allowed anything. So we could use them, but just make sure that they didn't know that we had them on us, if that made sense. I'd always wake up, get myself dressed, brush my teeth, and then I'd wake the kids up because breakfast would be at 8:30. So we'd eat breakfast, listen to any messages or announcements, and then we'd head back to the cabins for about 9:20, 9:30, and this was clean, and it was clean up time until 10. So basically you had to clean up your whole cabin, make sure everyone made their beds, make sure everything was put away, because every day we had inspections, and then they had like inspection scores, and it was like a whole game for the kids. So yeah, we just cleaned up and got ready for our first period. So each period lasted 1 hour and 15 minutes. So I would be teaching so it would be from 10 o'clock to 11:15 would be first period, so I would be teaching, and then from 11:15 till 12:30 would be second period, and then so I would teach first period and second period. And then after that, we'd have wash up for 15 minutes. So you go back to your cabin, you meet all of your campers, you just, they'd come from their different activities, and then you would go to lunch together at 12:45. Then we would eat lunch until about 1:30. And from 1:30 until 2:30, that was rest period. It basically meant like reading, doing friendship bracelets, playing card game, like something quiet in the cabin, or they could just like lie on their beds, whatever, or like play a game just outside their cabin. 3:30 till 3:45 was third period, and then 3:45 to 4:15 was something called punch and cookies, which is basically just a snack time. So it would be like biscuits, crisps, fruit, juice, and it was basically just like a snack time. So all the camp would come together to have a snack. 4:15 to 5:30, that would be fourth period, and then 5:30 to 6, that would be wash up for dinner. So you go back to your cabin, get all your campers together, and you could have a shower in this time, you could get changed and basically get ready for dinner. 6 to 7 would be dinner, and then after dinner would be twilight, and basically this isn't a scheduled period, so it wasn't like on their kids' timetable. There was like different drop-in things that the kids could go and do. Evening program at 8:15 to 9:15, and it was basically so evening program, the kids would be divided into their units, and each unit would do something, and this would be organised by the unit programmer. And the unit programmer was basically a person in charge of each unit, and it could be different things, so like a quiz, like a massive game of something, bingo, it ranged from sporty things to creative things. And then 9:15 to 10, you would get the kids ready for bed, and then from 10 onwards, the kids would have, so 9:15 you get the kids ready for bed, and then each unit had a different bedtime. So I think unit 1 was 9:30, and then unit 2 was 10, and so on. So yeah, then you just put the kids to bed, and then you are free for the rest of the evening. So how the time off worked was, so basically there are 5 activity periods in a day. So you period 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then also the twilight periods. So you work 4 out of 5 periods in one day. So I was always really lucky, and I always had twilight off, which is the best one to have off. Also, you'd also have another time off in the day as well. So basically there was rest period, evening program and cover, and these 3 things were on rotation. So you would do one of them a day, and then you'd have the other 2 off. So rest period is that, do you remember I was talking about that period just after lunch where the kids have to rest in their cabin, and it's just an hour for them to do something quiet in their cabin, like play games or make friendship bracelets or whatever. So there would be 3 counsellors in each cabin, and one of you would do rest. So all you have to do is basically just stay with the kids whilst they were chilling in the cabin. And the other one is evening program. So do you remember I was talking about the evening program organised by the unit programmer, an evening activity divided into age groups. So one of you would have to take the kids to evening program. You might have to get involved, but mainly you just have to be there and supervise them and help out. And then lastly is cover. So cover basically means that you have to go back to your cabin at 12:15. So basically we had this thing called rounds. So all the counsellors would leave the cabin at 10 o'clock, and then rounds would start, and it's basically, you would be on rotation for rounds, so you do rounds once a week. So what you would do is basically, you would there would be one person sitting outside each cabin, and basically if anything happens, like the kids can't sleep, someone's ill, you go and sort out the problem. I did rounds for the really little kids, even though I wasn't their counsellor, but you're on rotation. And during your off time, you could basically do whatever you wanted. So you could swim, we had a staff lounge as well, and we had like lots of different films in the staff lounge, like TVs and stuff. We had Mario Kart as well on like the Wii, which is really fun to play. There was like hammocks, we could do any activity we wanted. We could like just chill somewhere. We could leave camp as well. Like what we did was, the town that we were in was really small, but we could like go to Walmart, McDonald's, get ice cream, go to the beach, like anything we wanted to do like on our time off. So how the days off work was, we got a day off every Tuesday and Saturday, and you sign up for which day you want at the start of the week. So with my free counsellors, there would always be two people on one day off and one person on the other day off. So basically, from how our days off worked is that you get dinner from the night before until 11 p.m. the next day. So say I chose my day off on Tuesday, so I would be off from dinner on Monday night, and I'd have to be back at 11 p.m. on Tuesday. So basically what we did as a camp on our day off was we would book an Airbnb, and we would throw like a massive party in like the Airbnbs that we used to book. So because obviously half the camp would be off and half the camp wouldn't be off, so everyone that was off on your day, there'd be someone nominated to book a massive Airbnb, and they would be really cheap as well. I think they'd be like $15 to $20, because it would all be split between like 40 people. So the night that we were off, we would drive to this Airbnb, have like a massive party, and then the next day we would go out somewhere, and we went to like the beach, we like went to like different tourist attractions, we did like water sports, sometimes we went to someone's house, like we had loads of fun. And these parties that we used to throw, oh my god, they were like the most insane, crazy parties I have ever been to in my life. Like I can't even describe how insane these parties were. I'm gonna insert a few clips. They were so fun. Like we would party from like 10 p.m. until like 7 a.m. the next day. It was so fun. Can't describe how fun the parties were, but don't worry if you're not a party person, because there'd always be like a group that weren't into like partying and stuff, and they would always go off and do something separate. And also our camp provided minibuses and cars, and we were like allowed to there would be like designated drivers that were allowed to drive them, and they would drive us to like the different Airbnbs, or like we'd all go together on a day off. We didn't really split up into groups. We'd kind of split up into like different groups on the actual day, but like we'd all go together for like the different parties in like the minibuses and cars that camp provided for us. My next section is making friends. I want to say it's so easy to make friends with people, because everyone is so friendly at camp. Everyone wants to make friends, and you're going to be living there for 2 months. So people just want to meet different people, and you're going to meet people from all different cultures and backgrounds and all different parts of the world, and it is the best thing ever. And you will make some of the best friends ever at camp. Like some of my closest friends are the ones I made at camp. Like it's absolutely insane how close you're going to be with these people, because you'll literally spend every single minute with them. I would just say talk to everyone, like be open, because some people take longer to come out of their shell than others. And I would say you're going to make friends with the people that you work with first. So I did mainly horse riding, so I made friends with a lot of the horse riding people first. And then again with like your co-counselors, you're going to make really good friends with them as well. And also during staff week, you're going to be friends with a completely different set of people than what your actual friendship group would be like when camp progresses at first. Because obviously at first, because I remember I was really close to a whole bunch of people at first, but then we kind of drifted as we got to know other people. But yeah, everyone is super friendly, and you will have the best time if you go. And for traveling after, I'm gonna say don't plan anything, because you're gonna make friends, like people that will like invite you to like their hometown and stay at their house. So don't make any plans, because you're going to want to make friends and travel with them. So don't book anything, don't make any plans. My travels, I'm going to make a whole separate video about my post-camp travels. So basically I spent about a week in Chicago, because one of my friends invited me to her house. She invited 6 other people to her house. So we spent a week in Chicago, and then me and 3 other girls flew to California and did a massive road trip around California. And then we flew back to New York, had 5 days in New York, and then we flew back home. And everyone's always says to me, oh my god, that sounds super expensive, how could you afford that? But I promise you, it was the most budget trip ever. Like, we budgeted the hell out of this trip. Like, it was, I think we spent about $1,000 on the whole trip. Or even less, to be honest. And I'm gonna do a whole separate video on how I managed to road trip California for that price. Like, my advice for like post-camp traveling and how to make the most out of your money and how to save money as well whilst traveling post-camp. I'm gonna do a whole separate video on that. Yeah, keep an open mind to travels afterwards, because I always had a set plan that I really wanted to go to Disneyland afterwards, but don't set your mind on one specific plan, because things will change and you'll make friends that invite you to places, and your whole plan will definitely change. But I'm going to make a whole separate video on how to travel cheaply. And lastly, I wanted to say, so working at camp, I earned I got $1,000 I mean, for working at camp. So that was my pay for the whole 2 months that I was at camp for. So yeah, that wraps up my whole video about my Camp America experience. If there's any questions, leave them in the comments below, because I am going to be making more videos about camp. But I hope